Welcome, welcome.
Hello, welcome back. All right, so today we're just having a very quick chat. We haven't really fleshed out what we're going to talk about, but I was just saying to Nat about this. I was just watching a video yesterday or the day before from a spiritual teacher, 𝘾𝙤𝙣𝙚𝙞𝙤, and he was talking about this concept of choosing to be here, which is something another mentor of mine, Jennifer Hoff, has talked about quite a lot as well. And it seems like a weird concept because, like, you're here in your life, so you sort of think, okay, well, I'm choosing to show up in my life, but there is this difference between that fully choosing to be here and experience everything that comes your way in life, rather than pushing away those feelings that you don't want to deal with and just only having the experience of the things that you do want to have. So you're kind of not fully ever showing up in your life if you haven't fully chosen to be here in this moment, in this experience, have the emotions that are flowing through, feel them, experience them fully for what they are, rather than resisting an experience. So he was sort of coming from this idea that you can't sort of fully be in your power if you haven't made a conscious decision to fully show up in your life, and everything that means that comes with that sort of thing. So I think the thing I took away from it, I think, was that a lot of the problems that we perceive we have is because we're not actually fully letting ourselves experience them and move through them. So the emotion just kind of keeps sitting there and circling around because you're just not choosing to go through it, if you like, sort of thing, and embody that feeling and know that it's actually just an emotion. It's just a story that we have attached to things. So that's what I was just sharing with that. So
sorry. Do you see this as a different level to I just think of the people in this building, particularly, like when you take the dog down for a walk, how many people have been on their phones and missed their floor? So like the other day I had to tap a guy on the shoulder and it's like pointing, I can't speak the language, pointing is like, is this your floor? He's like, oh yeah. But so many people have missed their floor.
Yes.
Because they've just been like totally like off somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like you really couldn't just like go off your phone for like 5 seconds in a life. Like, really.
And that is actually something that Matt was talking about in this video too, was around is that, like, we've got so much stuff around us these days that we just put our attention on that we're not actually experiencing the world around us. So he's kind of saying, everyone's sitting here looking at these little tiny, as you said, like mobile phone screens and iPads and things like that. And he said, like, hello, like, look out here, you've got the biggest screen in the world in front of you, and you're kind of looking at this tiny little thing. And he's just like, I kind of would have thought that this would have a bit more, grab your attention a bit more, sort of thing, being such a bigger screen. So it is that concept too, that it's almost like you see it too, like people are waiting for a bus and they have to wait 5 minutes, or they're waiting for a coffee and then there's a bit of a queue. So they think, okay, it's going to be 5 minutes. First thing they do is they pull out their phone and start scrolling. Whereas I'm sort of really conscious these days of just kind of being in that moment and just watching. I mean, I do it on occasion. Like, I'm not saying I don't ever do those things, but it's kind of like, it's usually like a conscious choice when I do it. It's like, no, I actually want to look something up, or like, something that's going to grab my interest, just inspiring article or something I want to read. Like it's, or take photos. I often look through my photo reel because that's something I really like doing. So it's kind of creative and inspiring to me. So, but he was talking about that whole thing of just how absorbed people get in the news. You just get, the more that you talk about those things and you put your energy into those things, and like, it's just like, well, that's the experience that you're kind of creating in your world. If that's the things you want to spend your energy on and put your time and attention to. So, you're not actually choosing to fully be in that experience of your own life. Like, it's always like this outside.
It's always somebody else's life
around you. Yeah.
It shows up so many different ways, like getting involved in other people's things, like even that sort of whole idea of gossip or having an opinion on somebody else. It's like, why are you even considering being in their life? Like, it's got nothing to do with you. Like, I do remember reading sort of somewhere that there's like, there's your business and then there's God's business. And when it comes to somebody else, it's all God's business. It's got nothing to do with you. Keep out of it. So it's sort of like, stop gossiping and stop even worrying about everybody else, sort of thing. Like, and it is almost a distraction to be in somebody else's life. And I think social media definitely has become that over the years, where, and I've seen this in Jodie even, so absorbed in everybody else's stuff that it's like I'm sitting here going, hello, like we have a relationship, like, and it was almost one thing that broke us up, like, you know, not long ago was, and that was a big point. It was like, when's time for us? Like, when you come back to us and to you and to me, and not that she doesn't put any time into it, but there was just she just gets so absorbed, her energy is so easily dragged into somebody else's stuff that she has to watch that. Like, she's quite aware of that now, and that's not wrong for her.
No,
it's quite natural for her because she's such a helpful person. She wants to help everybody, not necessarily from a rescue standpoint, I don't think. I think it's a genuine wanting to help people. But that really does mean that she gets involved in everybody else's stories, to the detriment of her own story, so that she doesn't take time for herself and all that. And it's like, you have to literally take time for yourself. You have to set time aside to do that. And the whole social media thing just does my head in, I've got to be honest with you, and the mobile phone thing. You look around, I purposely look around at how many people are actually on mobile phones in restaurants when they're out and about. And, you know, Jodie's done it too. And I said to her, can you please stop that? If we go out, we've left work behind purposely to go out and have a break and do something else. And the first thing you do is sit down and start looking at did somebody reply to that message on Facebook? So who gives a shit? Like, seriously, like, you really can't go without it for an hour. Really? Think about it.
It's that ego drive that we've got, that instant gratification phenomenon, I guess, if you like, that's kind of come about just with technology. You know, it is a new age problem, that whole thing, because, you know, go back 20, 30 years, you didn't have that. We didn't just have the technology where you could do things like this straight away. We couldn't have been doing this type of thing, talking like this now. So it's just like there is that, you know, with our expectation, I guess, if you like, has gone up on that instant. Oh, if someone doesn't respond to your email straight away, you can start going, oh, how come they haven't responded to my email? Like, and you send a text message, you don't get one back within 2 seconds. You're kind of like, oh, why aren't they texting me? Like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, like they could be driving, they could be in a meeting, you know, it's just, but our mind just kind of immediately makes it mean something, you know, like about, you know, so it's just interesting, this concept of that, choosing to be here and showing up, because it's like, well, you can't actually be in tune with that infinite feeling coming through you if you're not in the present moment, which means you have to choose to be here. So, like, to experience the present moment, you have to choose to be here. So that's pretty much what he was saying and what I've heard. So it kind of just landed a bit more for me, I think, that whole concept of the show, maybe just because the last few weeks has been a little bit stressful for me, just with this house sit that I'm doing. It's brought up a lot of different patterns which we've shared, you know, the last few weeks around time and putting everything else before, and I've kind of fallen back into that trap a little bit. So it was just interesting, that whole choosing to be here kind of landed, because I was just like, okay, I can see where I hadn't fully chosen to show up for the thing that I want to be showing up for, this feeling that's moving through me, and let other things kind of get in the way.
This project, you mean?
Yeah, definitely, like around this project. And I mean, yes, there was some time things going on. That was a commitment I made, and so that was just an ease. But there was just other, you know, as I think we shared yesterday, the day before, just like things were just kind of ridiculous kind of scenarios were popping up, just to kind of suck up time, just to make it really obvious about what was kind
really
of
obvious
happening. So it was around that. It was just like, okay, if I'm fully choosing to follow this and jump right into it, then that means acting on the inspirations that come through as they come through. So it's like, it is that, it's not like you plan when an idea is going to come through, if you know what I mean. Like, it is that, you know, intuition just speaks in the moment, and you act on it in the moment. Like, it doesn't, you don't kind of then schedule and kind of go, okay, well, I'll do that like next week. It doesn't mean like you might have a project that you have to break down, obviously, into tasks, but it's like that actual, usually the thing that your intuition tells you is a small step to take. Like, it doesn't give you like this, you know, go and make $1 million tomorrow. Like, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't say stuff like that to you. It's always just like, call this person or say this, or, you know, it's that kind of a feeling. It's like you just get this feeling comes through you to do a certain action, and then that will give you to the next action. So it is just that being in the moment, choosing to show up.
It's tiny steps, isn't it? It's like you might get a vision, like I think we do. I know we do, for the infinite me sort of thing. Like, we've seen a center, and you know, a moving expo and all sorts of huge things, like way off the radar of us right now. So it's not like you don't get visions, but then it does need to break it down step by step, because it's the only way you can do it in the moment, sort of thing. So I remember doing Bob Scheinfeld's course, and remember that that video that he showed, and I think it's of Transformers or something, and it's like this big cavity type thing, this big void, and the machine's walking across, and there's no bridge or anything, you know, there's nothing underneath him, sort of thing. And he's just like, he really had to trust at that point. It's like, take a step, then the next step actually appeared. And the next thing actually, I always remember that clip. In fact, we'll drop the link in somewhere if we can actually even find it at some point, because I think that is such a great visual of that. Literally, it is step by step. You have to step out into the void, into the nothingness. You don't know if that step is even going to be there when you make the leap type thing, but you trust that it will be. Trust that something will be put underneath you to hold you up, literally.
I think there's a saying or something around that, isn't it? Like, take the next step and the road will rise up to meet you, or something like that. There's a I don't know where it comes from, but there is something around that. But the other thing I was just thinking too, that I was hearing around intuition, which kind of landed too, is this was around intuition. When it speaks to you, is there is no outcome for it. Like, so our mind immediately wants to kind of go, oh, okay, if it tells, okay, say it tells you to ring Michelle. So you're going to go, oh, okay, I must be ringing Michelle because I've got to get X from her, or this has got to happen. You're already sort of projecting an outcome, but it's just like, there is no outcome to your intuition. It's just the next step. To the moment, if we just stay in that moment and just do that action, the next step, as you said, will show up, like, of what to do, you know, where to go. And it could mean going sitting in the sun on the grass for 10 minutes. Like, it doesn't have to be like you know, we think it has to be like a doing all the time, like, or it's that type of our mind immediately wants to create the outcome. So as soon as you do that, you kind of know it's not your intuition anymore. It's like, that's kind of a good way to tell. Is just like, there's no outcome, there's no good or bad. It's just like it's a feeling that moves through you. Like, and the more that,
or you've layered a projection on top of, like an ego projection on top of the intuition. So your intuition might be telling you to ring Michelle, but then you put a story around it, because that's what the mind does. It needs a context. The mind needs a context. So we have to build a story around that, about why we're ringing Michelle now, what might happen, and we have to be sort of prepared for what might happen when we ring Michelle. So we better run all the scenarios in case, you know, it doesn't go to plan. We do it all the time.
Happens in like a nanosecond. But the more that you practice, is why it is that practice thing about being present in the moment. Is just, the more you do it, the more the more you'll hear that, or you'll feel that feeling within you to act on, sort of thing. So it's always there. That's the thing. We're always being guided. It's just whether we're listening. That's the thing. And if your head's kind of stuck down in a mobile phone constantly, like, of course you're not going to be hearing your own inner voice that's coming through. It's just like you're hearing everything else around you.
You just miss so much going on. And you know, the intuition doesn't follow logic. So
no,
when it tells you to do something, you're like, really? Like,
doesn't make sense.
That feels like the next step. Are you kidding? Like, so then you're like, no, that can't be right, because that wouldn't then add up to this outcome. Like, I can't see how we would actually get to that point that I'm trying to get to by going down that route. So that can't be right. So you either don't do it, or you do it with agenda.
Yes, exactly.
But it's, like, because there is no logic, it's so difficult at times. Like, it can really catch you out, like, doing such weird and wonderful things. It's like, really, you want me to talk to that person or ring that person because that feels right now? That questioning the whole time.
It is.
But, look, it's true. You can't access the infinite anywhere but in the present moment. That's the only place it exists. So if we are going to play the infinite game, we're virtually forcing ourselves to be present and totally in the moment. And like you were saying, accepting whatever that moment actually is. And I guess this brings us into, you know, judgment and, you know, calling a situation good or bad sort of thing. So you know, we always move towards something that's really positive and good and makes us feel good and stuff like that. And we're always rejecting stuff that feels negative or dark or whatever. So it's like, because we're labeling things good and bad, we're sort of constantly doing this toing and froing rather than just following the path in the middle, which could be anything. Like, and we've talked about this like over the last week or so, like when you step into the infinite space, it could literally be anything.
Yes.
And that's so scary to the ego that it could be actually bad and negative. But forgetting it's the ego that labels it as that. Like to the infinite self, it's not either good or bad. It just is. It's just like, this is the next step. This is the next experience for you if you want to have it.
Yes.
And it could be quite amazing if you really want it to be.
Yes. An interesting concept. So, I don't know, just taking, I don't know, I guess the way to, sorry, I think there's someone at the door. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think just stay there. I might just have to jump off for 1 second. Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to not be present. Like, I was even noticing that today as I was walking Mikey around the thing, and my mind was just drifting into different scenarios, what we might talk about today. We've got to leave in 2 days' time, so I was thinking about Malaysia. Totally sort of off in the future, rather than being back with Mikey. And I just I really did have to sort of bring myself back into it. And it is easy to come back into presence by actually recognizing that you're not present, actually brings you back into presence immediately. So it's actually not difficult. So that's pretty much what I did. I just went, oh, I'm actually not being really present with Mikey right now. I'm off with the fairies. So, the mind is always drifting, and the more mindful and you become of this, the easier it becomes, definitely. I think when I first started being present, I was trying to be present. So that's not being present either. That's actually trying to be present. So that can really catch you out. I was just talking about the whole okay?
No, it's fine. Yeah, just the dog I'm looking after. I had to kind of make sure she didn't walk on the floor because someone knocked on the door. So she had a leg operation. So. So, yes.
Yeah. No, I was just talking about the whole trying to be present versus actually just being present.
Yes.
What does Yoda say? There is no trying. There's only doing.
Yeah. And that's the thing where the ego, you may have said this, I'm not sure, but the that's where it gets really tricky when you start doing this work, is because the ego will start then like doing things like that. So saying, well, I'm trying to be present. Like, and you think you can convince yourself that you're being present, but like if there's any thought process going on around being present, then that's the ego. Really, it is like it is. You just have to kind of be really aware all the time, and it's just that dropping into that feeling and noticing what's coming up, but not engaging it, like, and just dropping back. That's why I guess people say have a meditation practice, because it does take time to to train your mind, I suppose, to not go down that line of the thoughts that come in all the time. Like it is like it is a practice, like to start to know yourself more and let that space open up, like, because it is filled with so much crap that's around us that it's so easy to take on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think going back to what you said before about if you're not present, then you don't have the time and space and ability at that point to actually move through the emotions that are coming up too, and the feelings that are coming up in that moment. And they might be really icky feelings, like it might be anger or sadness or despair or all these feelings that we try and move away from because we don't like them. So then we use the past or the future. The past sort of is contemplative, and we could have done things better, and that could be in a different outcome right now had I have done something different in the past. And maybe this wouldn't exist right now. So you start sort of analyzing that, or you go into the future where hope is. We're more hopeful about our future. When you think about the future, generally, not forever, but generally, it feels brighter. So we might attract then to the future projections all the time because it makes us feel better in the moment, and we're still not present with the despair or the anger that we're going through in that moment, that something has triggered us to actually feel those things.
Yes.
Labeling them as wrong, going, I
Yeah.
shouldn't be feeling this right now. And so we just keep pushing it back down again. So
Yeah.
then the next incident happens and up it comes again. No, push it back down again. I don't want to deal with that. Well, no, I think.
Or you act it out. Or you act it out, but it's completely from ego, and then that has a consequence, you know, because you get really angry, but you go really off your brain at somebody, but it's not warranted, you know, perhaps for what's happening, or it's totally coming from your expectation that you'd built up and things like that, but maybe you don't see that as well. So then that anger keeps seething, you know, within you sometimes because you're still not seeing what it's about. Yeah. So
you're just carrying it. And we've all met people like that are carry it throughout their entire life, you know, about a divorce or their family that did something to them way back when somebody else's family did something to them 400 years ago. In different cultures, sometimes they are carrying that same thing. It's passed on from generation to generation to generation. We don't like X group of people because of what happened to our forefathers, you know, 400 years ago.
Yes.
So it never gets dealt with. And so it just keeps coming up and up and up. And you keep recreating, or you have to recreate those scenarios that help bring it to the surface because it's trying to get out. But then we keep pushing it back down again. I don't know how to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
Then it comes again. We have another scenario that makes us angry, and then another scenario. And so it's sort of like you get that. I mean, we've seen it too, where people are repeating the cycle of relationships, same relationship over and over again. Like,
yes,
different person, but it's exactly the same scenario. It's like, oh my God, I've just recreated this same thing again. My partner's doing exactly what my last partner did. And the partner before that, and the partner before that, like I don't get treated well, or I get abused, or I get this or that. They don't meet my needs, like whatever it is. It's like, well, because we haven't dealt with the emotion that comes with that.
Yes.
You're pushing it back down again.
Yes.
So by being present, then we can actually address it in the moment when it's actually not a big thing. I guess we're going back to feather brick truck again.
Yes.
It's like, well, it's a feather, let it come up because it'll be gone in seconds. Like it really doesn't take much at all to let an emotion go that comes up.
Yes.
If you're present with it and breathe
don't label it. Yep.
Yeah, don't label it. Just breathe through it and then it's gone. That's it. Done.
Yes.
It doesn't have to keep coming back up again. You can start creating new scenarios in your life. Like if you want to change your reality, then that would be one way of doing it.
Yes.
Is actually allowing the old stuff to leave.
Yeah, it's a practical noticing, and as I said, it's not something that you just automatically do normally because the ego is still running pretty strong, you know. So it's kind of, you do have to be quite conscious with it, and you just keep bringing your attention back, and then notice where you've gone down. It's like, oh, okay, I had an agenda behind that. That's okay. Like it's kind of like it's no point in beating yourself up about it because that's the ego that's beating itself up about it. It's just that, just course correct and go notice it, feel it, move on. Like it's just that step after step. Just keep doing that.
And it does become easier. Like when you've done it thousands of times, allowing an emotion to come up or a feeling to come up, then it is pretty quick and it's pretty painful. So it's definitely worth doing because it really does shift who you are and you sort of feel more expansive because those old patterns and programs are leaving you.
Yes.
And I feel vastly different over the last 10 years, particularly. I guess, for the first part of our transformation, I didn't really know about that stuff in terms of sort of allowing emotion just to come up.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
So maybe the last 6 or 7 years, perhaps, maybe a bit more. But since sort of learning almost that technique, if you're on technique, it definitely has helped a lot, massively.
Yes.
And it also means that, when your partner's going through it or, somebody that's close to you, they're going through an emotion as well. You don't get involved in it. You just hold the space for them and go, just breathe through it. If you want
you don't need to take that experience away from somebody else. It's there for them to experience. So, but we try to, fix it sometimes. We don't want them to be angry or we don't want them to feel sad or we don't want them, but it's just like, well, it's there for them to experience as well. So it's, it is sort of sometimes hard to step back and let somebody just go through something.
Well, I think it makes us uncomfortable as well. So you're actually more worried about yourself in that point because it's making you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, that's the part you have to look at. I suppose that is the ego part. It's just like, well, this your own. Yeah, a lot of the time you're acting out that way because it makes you feel uncomfortable. So a lot of people are like that at funerals and things. So, for example, they just have so much, grief and regret that can come up of things that they didn't do or feel like they're going to really miss somebody, which is, not to say that there isn't that natural feeling of you're going to miss that physical presence of somebody and the love that they represented. But a lot of the time that can also be partly around that feeling of you feeling like now you're not going to have something that you really want in your life. It's kind of, there is sometimes a bit of an agenda behind the thing that you think you're going to miss out on now, like is not there now. And or even just that regret for things that you could have done when they were alive and now they're not. And it's like, well, that is a feeling that will come up. But if you let the ego get a hold of that, you can just let that feeling move through you and go, wow, like, there were some missed opportunities there, and let yourself be sad about it and actually feel the sadness. And but it's when you sort of hold on to that, and then 10 years later you're still sort of saying, oh my God, the last thing I said to my father was this, and you still got that same emotion coming up of like this regret. It's just like, well, that's not letting yourself process an emotion or feel it. Like that's actually still running a story attached to it as well. So it is around that, just letting yourself feel the emotion, as crazy as that can feel at times, and let yourself go to the depths of an emotion and without labeling it. It is just an experience in your body, a sensation in the body. If we don't label it and don't put words around it and make it mean anything.
I think that whole labeling thing is so fascinating. To do it for anything, like I remember sort of learning that technique and walking into a park and normally, I don't know, you're sort of almost subconsciously doing it, but the mind is sort of going, okay, tree, path, people, fountain, birds. It virtually is labeling everything all the time type thing. So it is quite different to walk into a park or anywhere where there's just like no labeling of anything. So then it's almost like you're feeling the essence of that place all of a sudden, like the energy of that place, the truth of that place. And it's such a different experience to go through life, not labeling stuff and actually just being. To me, that is the essence of being present as well, is that not labeling. So as soon as you're labeling stuff around you, or you've got sort of some sort of commentary going on about what you think is going on in that moment in front of you, then you're out of the present moment again. We're back into the ego. Sort of consciously go, okay, I'm going to walk through the shopping center and I'm just going to be totally present. I'm not going to label anything. I'm not going to judge anything. I'm going to notice as things come up and I'm just going to not engage them. It's a totally different experience. It's like such a whole experience. It like feels so different. And it's almost like a joy-filled experience. Like suddenly you start smiling at people, or just getting this little skip in your step type thing, because it actually feels really different. It feels quite joy-filled all of a sudden. It's like the same mall you've walked into like for the last 5 years, but suddenly it's just a really different experience.
It's
very cool.
Well, let us know what this brings up for you, this whole choosing to be here in life. Is that a new concept that you've heard, or do you get what that means, or you feel like you have fully chosen to be here? How do you find being present? Like, is that something that comes easy to you now, like you've had practice at it, or do you still struggle with it? So let us know.
Definitely. It's interesting. It's such an interesting conversation to see it play out in different ways as well.
It's
really cool.
Good
one. All right, well, that's it for today. Let's see what comes up tomorrow. Maybe you'll be in a new house seat, won't you?
Yes, it will be. New backdrop tomorrow.
Backdrop, yes. And then the day after that, I'll have actually, I'll still be here. We have to work out the next day because I've got to travel to Malaysia. We'll sort that out. But we'll be at an airport, perhaps. Backdrop at an airport. Yes. All right. Very cool. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.